The steel door slammed shut behind him. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows across concrete walls. The lock clicked. Final. Absolute. Captain Sarah Vance stood in the center of the cell, wrists raw from zip ties they just cut away. This wasn't a standard detention facility. The walls were too thick, the silence too complete. A voice rasped from the darkness of the adjacent cell. Old. Weathered. "They got a name for you yet?" Sarah didn't answer. "Doesn't matter. Names don't last here." A wet cough. "Only two ways out of this place, Captain. Dead." The old man's breathing rattled. "Or you open the gate yourself." The convoy attack happened so fast, Sarah barely registered the first RPG impact. One moment she was reviewing med supply manifests in the back of the Humvee. The next she was eating dust in cordite smoke. Her ears rang like someone had fired a gun next to her head. The taste of blood filled her mouth. She'd bitten clean through her tongue on impact. Through the haze of smoke and settling debris, she counted 3 hostiles moving through the wreckage. No, 5. 2 more emerging from the ditch line on the east side. They moved with precision, not the wild spray and pray of untrained insurgents. Professional. Coordinated. Every movement deliberate, covering angles, communicating with hand signals. Her hand went for her sidearm. Empty holster. When had she lost it? During the rollover? The initial blast? Time had fractured into disconnected snapshots. A boot connected with her ribs, flipping her onto her back. The sky was impossibly blue above the smoke, cloudless and indifferent. Strange what you notice when everything goes wrong. She'd read about that in combat stress studies, the brain's desperate attempt to find something normal, something beautiful, while the world burns. "Combat medic," one of them said in accented English, reading her patch. "Eastern European, maybe Russian." He crouched beside her, rifle trained on her chest. "Good. You live longer than the others." Through the ringing in her ears, Sarah heard scattered gunfire. Single shots. Executions. Her stomach turned. "Don't," she managed. "Geneva Convention." "No conventions here." The man gestured. 2 others grabbed her arms, zip-tied her wrists with practiced efficiency. "You are ghosts now. Disappeared. Nobody knows where you go." They threw a black hood over her head. The world became hot fabric and her own ragged breathing. The hood came off 6 hours later. She'd counted the turns, the stops, the changes in road surface beneath the truck bed where they'd thrown her like cargo. They'd driven north, then east, then up. Steep switchbacks. Elevation change made her ears pop. Mountains. Probably the border region between Syria and Iraq, maybe further north toward Turkey. The compound was smaller than she expected. Not a military installation, more like a converted industrial site. Concrete walls 12 feet high, topped with razor wire. Guard towers on 2 corners, both manned. Floodlights casting harsh white pools across packed dirt. Remote. No civilian settlements visible. No lights on the horizon. This wasn't official. No Red Cross. No oversight. No oversight meant no rules. The building itself was squat, single-story, concrete and steel. Ventilation units hummed on the roof. Generator shed to the east. She cataloged it automatically. Old habits from JTAC training. Know the infrastructure. Know the weak points. They marched her through a metal door that opened into fluorescent brightness. The temperature shift was shocking. From desert cold to climate-controlled comfort. Someone was spending serious money to run AC out here. The interrogation room was clinical. Too clean. A metal table bolted to the floor, 2 chairs, recording equipment in the corner with a blinking red light. Not just audio, video too. High-definition camera, professional setup. They were documenting everything. The walls were acoustic tile, soundproofing. Sarah's chest tightened. The man who entered wore no uniform, no insignia. Civilian clothes, tactical pants, black polo shirt, late 40s, fit, moving with the easy confidence of someone who'd spent decades being dangerous. Private contractor, maybe. Or worse, someone who'd gone off the reservation entirely, taking classified skills into the black market. Captain Sarah Vance, he read from a folder, settling into the chair across from her. He didn't look up immediately, let the silence build. Interrogation 101. 28. Combat medic. But that's not quite right, is it? He looked up. Gray eyes, cold as January metal. JTAC qualified. Forward air controller. You were calling in strikes from forward positions. Very specialized, very classified. He turned a page. Haditha, Ramadi, Mosul, Tal Afar. Impressive service record for someone so young. Her stomach dropped. That information was compartmentalized, deep black classified. Her JTAC role wasn't on standard personnel files. Someone had given her up, someone with high-level access. We know about the Haditha compound strike, he continued, his voice conversational, almost friendly. March 14th, night op, precision JDAM, 500-pounder, 43 casualties. He leaned forward, folding his hands. Tell me who gave the authorization. Walk me through the chain of command. Sarah kept her face neutral, falling back on training. Geneva Convention, Article 17. I am required to provide name, rank, serial number. Captain Vance. He smiled, and it was worse than anger. Let me be very clear about something. This facility doesn't exist. You don't exist anymore. Your convoy was attacked, everyone killed, bodies burned beyond recognition. The Army will send letters to your mother in Portland. There will be a memorial service. They'll fold a flag. He stood, walked around the table. She forced herself not to track him, not to show fear. No one is coming for you, he said quietly, standing behind her now. No rescue, no prisoner exchange, no international pressure. You are a ghost. The only question is how long you suffer before you accept that. He returned to his seat, opened the folder again. We can do this the easy way. You tell me what I want to know. Chain of command, authorization protocols, targeting procedures. Or we can do it the hard way. He glanced at the camera. I have months, years if necessary, and I'm very, very patient. Sarah met his eyes. Name, rank, serial number. He sighed, almost disappointed. The hard way then, pity. He stood, gathered his folder. We'll talk again tomorrow. And the day after. And the day after that. At the door, he paused. Oh, and Captain, the screaming you'll hear at night? That's what happens on day 30 when people still think silence is an option. The door closed with a hollow boom. They stripped her of everything. Uniform, boots, even her dog tags. The guards were methodical, professional. No groping, no unnecessary violence. Just systematic removal of identity. They issued gray fatigues 2 sizes too large, fabric thin and rough against her skin, rubber sandals that slapped against concrete, no belt, no drawstrings, no shoelaces, nothing that could be used as a weapon or a rope. The processing room had height markings on the wall, like a police booking station. They photographed her from 4 angles, took fingerprints, swabbed her mouth for DNA, building a file. Making her real in their system, even as they erased her from the official one. The guard who processed her had dead eyes, Slavic features, scar through his left eyebrow. He'd done this before, many times. He stamped a number on her intake form without speaking. 847. You're 847 now, he finally said, his English heavily accented. Respond to it, only to it. You have no name here. Cell block C was a long corridor of 8 cells, concrete floor polished smooth by decades of shuffling feet. Solid steel doors with food slots at the bottom, observation windows at eye level, one-way glass. No windows to the outside world. No daylight. The fluorescent tubes overhead buzzed constantly, creating a perpetual twilight that made time meaningless. The cell was 6 feet by 8. She measured it automatically, pacing it out. Concrete bunk bolted to the wall, thin mattress that smelled of mildew and old sweat. Toilet with no seat, no privacy. A sink that dripped, one drop every 3 seconds. She started counting automatically, an old habit from sniper training. Time measurement mattered when you had nothing else. 3 drops, 9 seconds. 20 drops, 1 minute. The walls were concrete, painted industrial gray. Scratches near the floor, previous occupants counting days maybe, or going slowly insane. She sat on the bunk. The mattress was barely thicker than a towel. Through the door she heard nothing. Complete silence. They'd soundproofed everything. Then faint through the wall. "First timer?" Sarah pressed her ear to the concrete. The voice was low, rough, male. "Yeah." Smart. Listening before talking. A pause. She heard breathing, ragged, like damaged lungs. "They call me 37. Been here 4 years, maybe 5. Hard to keep track when there's no sun." 4 years. Jesus Christ. 4 years in a cell this size. "How many?" Sarah started, then stopped. Too many questions. "Prisoners? Used to be 12. Now 6. They don't replace the ones who leave." "Leave where?" Long silence. Then, "That's the question, isn't it? Some say transferred to a worse facility. Some say execution. Some say," he coughed, wet and thick. "Some say they just disappear. Into the ground. No graves, no records. Just gone." Sarah's mouth went dry. "Why are you still here?" "Because I'm useful. I speak 4 languages. They use me sometimes, translating interrogations." Another cough. "And because I haven't given them what they really want yet, the day I do, I'm gone too." "What do they want?" "Same thing they want from you. Names, networks, the architecture of how our intelligence systems work." 37's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Don't give them anything, 847. Not one name, not one procedure, no matter what they do." Morning came without sunrise, just a slight change in the fluorescent hum, a different pitch that her brain registered as daytime, even though the light never changed. Breakfast arrived through the slot at what she guessed was 0700. Lukewarm broth with oil slicks floating on top, a piece of flatbread that tasted like cardboard in defeat. Sarah forced herself to eat. Calories were survival. In SEER school, they drilled that into her. Eat everything, drink everything, maintain strength for the escape window. Because there was always a window, you just had to be ready when it opened. At what she guessed was 1,000 hours, her internal clock was still working, thank God. Her door opened. 2 guards. Professional spacing, 3 feet between them. One covered with a rifle, while the other cuffed her wrists in front. They'd learned from experience. Cuffing behind the back gave prisoners more leverage to attack. They led her through corridors she tried to memorize. Left turn, 30 paces. Right turn, 50 paces. Metal door. The layout was starting to form in her mind. The compound was bigger than it looked from outside. Multiple cell blocks. Processing areas. Guard quarters somewhere she hadn't seen yet. The recreation room was larger than her cell, maybe 20 by 20. Concrete floor, concrete walls. 1 camera in the corner, red light blinking. 4 other prisoners already seated on metal benches bolted to the floor. All men, all bearing the marks of long captivity, hollow cheeks, eyes that had seen too much, movements too careful, like beaten dogs waiting for the next kick. One man stood apart from the others, late 50s, maybe 60, gray beard that had been military neat once, now long and unkempt. But his posture was still military, back straight, shoulders squared despite obvious weight loss. He watched her with eyes that still had fight in them. Blue eyes, American eyes. Recreation hour, the guard announced in accented English. No talking, no physical contact, 1 hour. The moment the door closed, the older man crossed to her. The others shifted subtly, forming a loose screen between them and the camera. Practiced. They'd done this before. Captain, he said quietly, his voice low enough the camera wouldn't pick it up. Colonel James Reeves, Marine Force Recon. Retired, obviously. A ghost of a smile. You're the first woman they brought here. That means something. Like what? Sarah kept her voice equally low. Like they're expanding operations, getting bolder, taking bigger risks. He coughed, wet, rattling, deep in his chest. He tried to hide it, failed. Blood on his hand when he pulled it away from his mouth. He wiped it on his pant leg casually, but Sarah saw. Tuberculosis, probably, or pneumonia. Either way, untreated, it was a death sentence. You're JTAC, right? I heard them talking during intake. Thin walls here. You learn to listen. Sarah's pulse kicked up. How much did you hear? Enough. They want your targeting protocols, authorization chains. They're building a profile of U.S. airstrike procedures. His expression hardened, and for a moment she saw the force recon officer he'd been. Don't give them anything, not one procedure, not one name. Who's running this place? Reeves glanced at the camera, then back. Rogue intel contractor, ex-agency, ex-JSOC, men who know how the system works because they helped build it. They got tired of government salaries, went private. Now they sell to the highest bidder. Russians, Chinese, anyone with money. He coughed again, turned it into a throat clearing. They're not just gathering intelligence, they're selling access, selling secrets. They've got clients lined up. What do they want from you? Recon protocols, how force recon inserts work, landing zones, patrol patterns, communication procedures. His jaw tightened. They already got 2 of my men, broke them after 6 months. Both were transferred out 3 years ago. I haven't heard anything since. The unspoken hung between them, both probably dead. How long have you been here? Sarah asked. 4 years, maybe 4.5, hard to track. He studied her face. You're thinking about escape. Good, hold that thought, but don't act on it yet. First you need to understand the pattern, the routine, the weak points. One of the other prisoners, younger, maybe 30, Middle Eastern, approached cautiously. Colonel, guards will notice if you talk too long. Right, Reeves nodded at Sarah. Walk. Look like you're exercising. I'll brief you while we move. They paced the perimeter of the room, slow circles that looked aimless, but kept them moving, harder for the camera to read lips. Guard rotation changes at 0200 and 1400, Reeves said quietly. Skeleton crew at night, 2 men for the whole facility. They get complacent around 0400, end of shift fatigue. Camera in the corridor outside has a blind spot, 3 feet, right side of the cell block door. Someone in the guard room has to actively watch the monitors. Usually they don't. Sarah absorbed it all. Why are you telling me this? Reeves stopped walking, met her eyes directly. Because I'm dying. TB probably, or lung cancer. I smoked for 30 years before they grabbed me. Doesn't matter which. I've got months, maybe less. Said flatly, no self-pity, stating facts. And because you're young enough and skilled enough to maybe make it out, someone needs to tell Washington what's happening here. You've tried to escape. Once, 3 years ago. His expression went distant, haunted. We had 8 men, good plan, waited for the right moment. We got to the outer fence, thought we were home free. He swallowed hard. That's when they brought in the dogs. German shepherds, ex-military working dogs trained for security. They don't bark, they don't warn you, they just hunt. How many made it? To the fence? All 8. Past the fence? He shook his head. Just me. And only because Martinez drew them off, sacrificed himself so I could get back over. They shot him in the courtyard, made us watch. His voice went hollow. Then they beat the rest of us for 3 days straight. Broke my ribs, collapsed my lung. That's probably when the infection started. Sarah felt cold despite the room's warmth. But you're planning another attempt. Not me. I won't survive another beating. He looked at her steadily. But you might, if you're smart, if you're patient, if you learn the patterns. He coughed, longer this time, doubled over with it. The other prisoners moved closer, blocking the camera's view. When Reeves straightened, there was more blood on his hand. How many guards total? Sarah asked, keeping her voice clinical, focused. 12 on day shift, 8 at night, plus Volkov, the commander, ex-Spetsnaz. He runs the place, fights like it too, fast, brutal. Reeves wiped his hand. There's a vehicle depot on the north side of the compound. 2 trucks, 1 SUV. Keys are in the guard office, hung on a board. I've seen it through the window during interrogations. You're talking like this is actually possible. I'm talking like it's necessary. He met her eyes. They're going to move us, soon. Probably within the month. There's talk of a facility transfer. Transfer where? Reeves's expression went dark. Chechnya. Black site run by Russian intelligence. A place called Daka Yurt. Prisoners who go there. He didn't finish, didn't need to. Don't come back, Sarah finished. Never. 3 days established the rhythm, and Sarah memorized every detail. Breakfast at 700, always the same. Broth, flatbread, sometimes a bruised apple or a handful of dates. Interrogation at 1000. Recreation at 1400. Dinner at 1800. Rice, more broth, occasionally meat so overcooked it could be anything. Lights never went fully dark, just dimmed at 2200 to a twilight that made sleep difficult. The interrogator, she'd started calling him Gray Eyes in her mind, was patient, methodical. He asked the same questions different ways, probing for inconsistencies, building psychological pressure like layers of sediment. The strike on Haditha, he began on day 2. Walk me through your pre-strike checklist, every step. Geneva Convention, Article 17. Yes, name, rank, serial number. I've got it memorized too, Captain. He set down his pen, leaned back. Let me ask a different question. How many children do you think died in that compound? Don't react. Don't let him see. Because I have satellite footage. Would you like to see it? He pulled out a tablet, turned it toward her. Thermal imaging from 30 seconds after impact. See these signatures? The small ones? Those are children, Captain. 8 of them, ages 3 to 12. The screen showed exactly what he described. Bright white thermal signatures, small bodies, some still moving. Sarah's jaw clenched. The strike had been righteous, confirmed hostile activity, weapons cache, high-value target. Command had approved it. She'd verified coordinates 3 times, checked and rechecked the ROE. But doubt was a poison, and he was a skilled poisoner. You were so careful, Gray Eyes continued, his voice almost sympathetic. Triple-checked the coordinates, waited for confirmation, did everything by the book. He tapped the screen. And still, 8 children, dead because you made the call. It was a legitimate military target. Was it? He leaned forward. Or were you just following orders? Because here's what I'm wondering, Captain. When you lay in your bunk at night, do you see their faces? Do you hear them? Day 3, he changed tactics, brought in a different tablet, played audio, radio chatter, her voice calling in the strike coordinates, then screaming. A woman's voice, high and raw. Arabic words she couldn't understand. That's the mother, Gray Eyes said quietly. The only survivor. She's screaming for her children, calling their names. Fatima, Hassan, Amir. He paused the audio. Would you like to hear more? Sarah closed her eyes. I did my job. I followed the rules of engagement. Rules written by men who never saw the aftermath. He turned off the tablet. Tell me about your sources, Captain. Who gave you the intelligence on that compound? How did you verify it? And there it was. Not about her guilt, about the network. I don't know what you're talking about. You absolutely do. He pulled out a map marked with red circles. 47 strikes over 18 months, every single one based on human intelligence. Someone on the ground feeding you targets. Who was it? I received my intel through chain of command. But someone had to gather it first, someone with access, someone trusted. He tapped the map. We've analyzed the pattern, the targets, the timing. There's a network, Captain, multiple sources, and you're the key to identifying them. Sarah kept her face blank, but her mind raced. He was right. There was a network, carefully built over years, sources who risked everything to provide intelligence. Iraqi military defectors, tribal leaders, CIA assets deep in enemy territory. If Gray Eye's organization identified them, think about it overnight, he said, standing. Think about those 8 children. Think about how many more might die if we don't stop the people using them as shields. All I need are names, just names. Recreation became Sarah's lifeline and her classroom. Reeves taught her in fragments, careful words disguised as idle conversation while they paced or stretched or sat in apparently aimless silence. Guard rotation changes at 0200 and 1400, he repeated on day 4. But that's not the important part. The important part is shift change takes 12 minutes. They do roll call, equipment check, briefing. 12 minutes when they're not watching the monitors closely. Sarah filed it away. What about the blind spot? 3 feet, right side of the cell block door. But you need to understand the camera system first. Reeves coughed, controlled it better today. 6 cameras total in this wing, 3 in the corridor, 1 in each recreation room, 1 at the entrance. They're on a 4-monitor system in the guard room. Means they can't watch everything at once. They rotate. Pattern? Every 30 seconds. Corridor 1, rec room. Corridor 2, entrance. Corridor 3, rec room 2. 30-second cycle. You memorize that cycle, you can move during the blind periods. The younger prisoner, his name was Kareem, Sarah learned, former Iraqi interpreter, approached with what looked like casual stretching. Colonel, the new guard, the one with the scar, he's watching more carefully. Noted. Reeves didn't look at him, kept his eyes forward. Captain, you're medical, right? Combat medic? Yeah. I need you to look at something, casually. He lifted his shirt slightly while appearing to adjust his waistband. The skin beneath was wrong, yellowish, swollen on the right side. Liver or kidneys? Sarah's medical training kicked in automatically. Could be either. Jaundice suggests liver. Are you experiencing pain? Sharp, right side. Worse after eating. Probably liver, infection or cirrhosis. She kept her voice clinical. Without treatment, I know. He lowered his shirt. How long? Months, maybe less if it's acute. Reeves nodded, accepting it. Then we move faster. You need to know everything I know, starting with the depot. Over the next several recreation periods, he painted the picture in fragments. The vehicle depot was on the north side, separated from the main compound by a 50-meter courtyard. 2 gates, inner and outer. The inner gate was electronic, open from the guard room. The outer gate was manual, chain and padlock. Bolt cutters, Reeves said. There's a maintenance shed near the depot. I've seen them there. Red handles, 3 feet long. How do you know they're still there? Because this place runs on routine. They don't change what works. He coughed, recovered. The trucks are old Soviet models, ZIL 131s. You know how to hotwire? No. I'll teach you. Not here, too visible. But I'll talk you through it. You need to understand the ignition system. For 20 minutes, he described the process in technical detail, disguised as reminiscing about old vehicles he'd worked on. Sarah absorbed every word, building a mental schematic. Another day, he focused on the dogs. German shepherds, two of them. Names are Demon and Butcher. The guards think it's funny. They're kenneled on the east side, released if there's an escape attempt. Response time is maybe 2 minutes. How do you stop them? You don't. You avoid them. Reeves's expression darkened. They're trained to go for the throat or the hamstring. You can't outrun them. You can't fight them barehanded. Your only option is to not be where they're released. Or kill them first. With what weapon? You planning to steal a rifle? Sarah didn't answer immediately. Maybe. Reeves studied her. You're serious. I'm a combat medic with JTAC training. I know how to shoot. I know how to kill. She met his eyes. If it comes down to them or me, I'm choosing me. A slow smile crossed his face. Good. That's the mindset you'll need. He coughed again, longer this time. When he pulled his hand away, there was blood. More than before. Kareem noticed, moved closer. Colonel, you need to rest. I'll rest when I'm dead. But Reeves sat down heavily on the bench. His breathing was labored. Captain, listen. Time's shorter than I thought. They're going to transfer prisoners in 3 days. I heard Volkov talking about it during last night's guard change. Sarah's pulse quickened. Who? 2 prisoners from Block B. Transferred to Chechnya facility. There'll be a transport vehicle, extra guards. That's our chaos, our window. 3 days isn't enough time. It has to be. Reeves's voice was iron despite his failing body. Because after that, they'll tighten security, and the next transfer might be us. The realization hit Sarah during her 5th interrogation, and it reframed everything. Gray Eyes was asking about different targets now, not just Haditha, Ramadi, Tal Afar, Mosul, Fallujah. He'd spread a map across the table, marked with dozens of red pins. You called in strikes at all of these locations, he said, his finger tracing connections between pins. Precision hits, minimal collateral damage most of the time. Very impressive, Captain. Sarah said nothing. Here's what I'm wondering. He pulled his chair closer, invaded her space deliberately. How did you get so good at it? Most JTAC operators need multiple passes to walk ordnance onto target. Verification, re-verification, adjustment fire. You were one and done, every single time. Because I had the best training, because I cared, because lives, American lives, depended on perfect execution. Unless, Gray Eyes tilted his head, studying her like a specimen. Unless you had additional intelligence, real-time SIGINT maybe, or a source on the ground, someone who could confirm targets weren't just buildings, but specific individuals. His finger tapped one pin. Ramadi, you called in a strike on a compound that had been under surveillance for 3 weeks. How did you know the high-value target would be there that specific night? Sarah kept her face blank. Or here, another pin. Mosul, a precision strike that killed an IED cell leader. You waited 4 days, then called it in at exactly 0347 hours. Not 0300, not 0400, exactly 0347. Why that specific time? Because that's when the source confirmed he was alone. Because we had someone inside. And here's the interesting part. Gray Eyes pulled out another map, this one covered in blue pins. These are insurgent attacks that stopped after your strikes. Networks that went dark. Operations that suddenly collapsed. He overlaid the maps. Red pins and blue pins aligned almost perfectly. You weren't just hitting targets, Captain. You were dismantling entire networks. That takes more than satellite intelligence. That takes human sources, people on the ground, people with access. He leaned back. And I'm going to find every single one of them. The blood drained from Sarah's face before she could stop it. Gray Eyes smiled. There it is, confirmation. He stood, paced behind her. You understand now, don't you? This isn't about airstrike procedures. This isn't about rules of engagement or targeting protocols. This is about identifying CIA assets embedded in insurgent networks. And you, Captain, are the key to finding them. Sarah's mind raced. If they knew about the network, if they'd already started rolling up sources, how many were already dead? How many had been tortured, their families threatened, their carefully constructed covers burned? Let me make this simple, Gray Eyes said, returning to his seat. You give me names, just names. The sources who provided your intelligence. In exchange, I guarantee you'll survive. You'll be transferred to a more comfortable facility, eventually released through a prisoner exchange. You're lying. Maybe, but what's your alternative? Stay here until you break? Because you will break, Captain. Everyone does. It's just a question of when. He closed his folder. Think about it. Think about those sources. They knew the risks when they signed up. They're probably dead already. All you'd be doing is confirming what we already suspect. I want to return to my cell. Of course. He stood, knocked on the door. We'll talk again tomorrow, and the day after, and every day until you understand that silence isn't noble. It's just prolonging the inevitable. Back in her cell, Sarah pressed her face to the wall, fighting down panic. Reeves! Here. His voice was weaker than before. They're not asking about airstrikes. They're hunting for human intelligence sources. CIA assets. Everyone I ever worked with. Her voice cracked. If I talk, you don't talk. Ever. Reeves' voice turned to iron, the Force Recon commander reasserting itself. You understand me, Captain? Even if they pull out your fingernails, even if they waterboard you for hours, even if they show you video of your family, you don't give them one goddamn name. Not one. I won't. Good. Because if you do, you're not just killing those sources. You're killing every asset they ever recruited, every operation they ever supported. The ripple effect would be catastrophic. He coughed, long and wet. Those people trusted us, Captain. They put their lives in our hands. We don't betray that. Not ever. I understand. Good. A pause, labored breathing. Then we move up the timeline. We go in 3 days. During the prisoner transfer. 3 days? Sarah's pulse hammered. We're not ready. I don't know the hot wiring procedure well enough. I haven't memorized the full patrol pattern. We'll never be completely ready. But in 3 days, they're transferring 2 prisoners to the Chechnya site. Transport vehicle coming in from outside. Extra guards for escort. That's our chaos, our window. We use their own transport against them. What do you need me to do? Survive until then, Captain. A long pause, more coughing. When Reeves spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. And when the moment comes, remember something. You're not a medic anymore. You're not even a soldier. You're a weapon. And weapons don't hesitate. Sarah closed her eyes, pressed her forehead against the cold concrete. 47 airstrikes. Dozens of sources. Hundreds of people whose lives depended on her silence. I won't let them down, she whispered. Through the wall, so quiet she almost missed it. I know you won't, Captain. That's why I'm betting everything on you. 72 hours, 3 days. Sarah lay on her bunk and ran through the checklist Reeves had drilled into her mind. Shift change at 0200, 12-minute window, camera rotation every 30 seconds. Blind spot 3 feet right of the cell block door. Vehicle depot, north side. Bolt cutters in maintenance shed. Keys in guard office. The knowledge felt inadequate, like memorizing a recipe without ever having cooked the dish. Through the wall, Reeves coughed. The sound was getting worse, deeper, wetter. Each fit lasted longer. Sarah counted. 45 seconds this time before he caught his breath. Reeves, she whispered, you need medical attention. What I need is to get you out of here. His voice was thread thin. Day 1 down, 2 more to go. You're not going to make it 3 days if... Doesn't matter if I make it. Matters if you do. A pause. Listen, tonight during dinner, Kareem is going to start a fight with the guard. Small thing, just enough distraction. When he does, watch how many guards respond. Count them. Time their response. We need to know exact numbers. Sarah's stomach tightened. What's Kareem getting out of this? He's coming with us. Him and 2 others from Block B. 5 total. Reeves coughed again. More than that, we're too visible. Fewer than that, we don't have enough manpower. 5 prisoners against 12 guards. 8 guards on night shift. And we're not fighting them straight up. We're using chaos, confusion. They'll think it's a transfer gone wrong, not an escape. Pause. Trust me, Captain. I've been planning this for 3 years. I just needed the right trigger. That transfer vehicle is it. Dinner came at 1800. Sarah was marched to the common area, a larger space with 4 metal tables bolted to the floor. 12 prisoners total, guards stationed at each exit. She spotted Kareem immediately, sitting at the far table with 3 others she didn't recognize. The food was the same as always. Rice, broth, something that might have been chicken. Sarah ate mechanically, watching. Kareem stood to return his tray. The guard near the door, young, maybe 25, Slavic features, said something in Russian. Kareem responded in broken Russian. The guard's face flushed. He stepped forward, shoved Kareem back toward the table. Kareem pushed back. Not hard, just enough. The guard's radio crackled. Incident in common area. Need backup. Sarah counted. 4 seconds before the door opened. 2 more guards entered. 8 seconds total response time. All 3 converged on Kareem, who dropped to his knees, hands raised in surrender. Performance, not real resistance. The confrontation lasted 90 seconds. Then they dragged Kareem out. The room settled back into tense silence. Sarah had her answer. 3 guards minimum for any disturbance. 8-second response time from nearest post. Radio discipline good. They were trained, not just hired muscle. Back in her cell, she relayed it through the wall. Good, Reeves said. That matches what I've seen. 3 guards respond, leaves 5 in position. If we time it during shift change, we're down to maybe 6 total in the facility. That's still 6 armed men. You were JTAC qualified. You've called in strikes on harder targets than 6 men. His breathing was labored. Question is, can you pull the trigger yourself? Face to face? Sarah thought of the interrogation room. Gray eyes asking about sources. 8 dead children in thermal imaging. The systematic dismantling of everything she'd built. Yes, she said, I can pull the trigger. Day 2, 50 hours remaining. Gray eyes brought photographs to the interrogation. Real photographs, not thermal images. A man in his 40s, Iraqi, sitting at a cafe in Baghdad. Another photo, the same man lying in a pool of blood, bullet hole in his forehead. Ahmed Hassan, Gray eyes said. Ring any bells? Sarah kept her face neutral. He provided intelligence for 3 of your strikes. We know because we backtraced the comm signatures. Found his handler, a CIA case officer named Williams. Williams is very chatty when properly motivated. Gray eyes set down another photo. This is Hassan's family, wife, 3 children. They're in protective custody now. Witness protection, new identities. He leaned forward. Except we found them anyway. It's amazing what you can do with facial recognition software and social media. Wife posted a picture of her daughter at a new school. Geo-tagged it by accident. He smiled. They're in Dearborn, Michigan. Lovely community. Very safe. For now. Sarah's jaw clenched. You're bluffing. Am I? He pulled out his phone, showed her a video. A woman and 3 children walking into a house. Suburban street. American subdivision. The timestamp was from yesterday. That's real-time surveillance, Captain. We have assets in Dearborn. 1 phone call and Hassan's family joins him. You kill them, you lose leverage on me. True, so let's make a deal. He put the phone away. You give me 2 names, just 2. Sources from your network. I verify them, and Hassan's family stays safe. More importantly, I stop hunting the others. Whatever sources you don't name, they stay hidden. You get to save some of them. It was elegant, evil, but elegant. Force her to choose. Make her complicit in some deaths to prevent others. Geneva Convention. Fuck the Geneva Convention. His mask slipped, showing anger beneath. You think rules matter here? You think international law is going to save you, or them? He stood, slammed his hand on the table. Two names, Captain. Or I make one phone call and 4 more people die. Your choice. Sarah met his eyes. Then make the call, because you're not getting anything from me. Gray eyes stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled, cold and mirthless. Brave. Stupid, but brave. He gathered his papers. We'll see how long that lasts. Back in the cell, Sarah's hands shook. She pressed them against the concrete wall, trying to steady herself. Reeves. I heard. His voice was barely audible. Thin walls, remember? He's going to kill them. Maybe, maybe not. Could be psychological warfare. They want you to think they have reach they don't actually have. Pause. But even if it's real, you still can't talk. You know that, right? 4 people, including children, versus hundreds. The network Hassan was part of has 27 active sources. Those sources support operations across 3 provinces. You burn them, you're not saving Hassan's family, you're just killing more people. Reeves coughed, long and terrible. I know it's hard. God knows I know. But this is the job. We protect the mission, even when it costs everything. Sarah closed her eyes. In JTAC school, they taught her how to call in strikes, how to verify targets, how to minimize collateral damage. They never taught her how to choose who lives and who dies when there's no good option. 48 hours, she whispered. 48 hours, Reeves confirmed. Hold on, Captain. Just hold on. Day 2, recreation period. Sarah noticed it immediately. New guard on duty. Younger than the others, maybe early 20s. He stood too close to the prisoners, nervous energy radiating off him. His rifle was slung wrong, barrel pointed down instead of at the ready. Amateur. Reeves noticed too. He circled casually, positioning himself near the guard. When he stumbled, performance, Sarah realized, the guard instinctively reached out to steady him. Contact, physical contact, a violation of protocol. Sorry, Reeves mumbled in accented English. Dizzy. The guard looked uncertain. You sit. Rest. Thank you. Reeves sat heavily on the bench. The guard stayed close, concerned. Weak point in the armor. Kareem drifted over, still moving from yesterday's staged fight. He is sick, long time. They do nothing. The guard's expression flickered. Discomfort, maybe guilt. I cannot help. Not my decision. Of course, Kareem said smoothly. You are good man. I see this. Others, they are. He made a gesture. But you, different. The guard's radio crackled. Sector 4, report status. He fumbled for the radio. All clear, no problems. After he moved away, Reeves caught Sarah's eye. Mouthed, weakness. During the walk back to cells, Sarah processed it. The new guard was the weak link. Young, inexperienced, uncomfortable with the brutality. If they could exploit that. Through the wall that night. Did you see it? The new guard, yeah. His name is Dimitri. I heard the others calling him that. First month on the job. Still has conscience. Reeves' breathing was ragged. We use him during the escape. He'll hesitate. That hesitation is what we need. How do you know he'll be on duty? Because new guys get the shit shifts. He'll be working the night rotation. I guarantee it. Pause. Tomorrow is day 3. The transfer happens at 0300. We move at 0245 during shift change confusion. 15-minute window between old guards leaving and new ones fully set up. That's not much time. It's enough. Has to be. Reeves coughed. And this time Sarah heard something new. Liquid. Blood, probably. Listen carefully. I'm going to walk you through every step. Tomorrow during recreation you won't see me. They're keeping me in my cell. Getting worse. But I'll talk you through the wall tonight. Everything you need to know. Sarah's chest tightened. You're not coming. No, I'm not, said matter-of-factly. But you are. You and Kareem and the others. And you're going to make it, Captain. You're going to get out, get to friendly forces, and report everything. Every detail about this facility, every name you remember, every piece of intelligence you can provide. Reeves, let me finish. His voice strengthened, command authority reasserting itself. I've been here 4 years. 4 years watching men break, watching them disappear, watching this place destroy everything good about the people who end up here. He coughed. You're my last mission, Captain. My final op, and I will not fail it. Clear? Sarah pressed her forehead against the concrete. Clear, Colonel. Good, now listen. This is how it's going to work. Reeves talked for 3 hours through the wall. Sarah memorized every word. The transfer vehicle arrives at 0300. They'll bring it through the main gate, park it in the courtyard between the cell blocks and the guard station. 2 escort guards from outside, plus 4 from our facility, 6 total around the vehicle. The prisoners being transferred are in Block B, east side. That's opposite from us. When they move those prisoners, all eyes will be on that side. That's your window. Kareem has a piece of metal he's been hiding, sharpened it over 6 months against the concrete. It's not much, but it's a weapon. He'll take out the cell block guard. You need to get his keys. They're on his belt, left side. Carbine clip, not individual keys. Your cell is third from the door. Kareem is first. Once you have the keys, release him first. He releases the others while you move to the guard station. Remember the camera rotation, 30 seconds. You'll have to time it. Guard station has 2 men at night. During transfer, only 1. He'll be watching the courtyard. You come in from the blind side. There's a window, north wall, usually cracked open for ventilation. You can reach it from the maintenance shed roof. Inside the guard station, weapons locker left wall. Keys are in the desk drawer, right side. Grab 2 rifles minimum, ammunition, radio if you can. Don't waste time on anything else. The vehicle will still be in the courtyard. You need to get to it before they finish loading the prisoners. That's maybe a 10-minute window. Use the confusion. Everyone will be focused on the transfer, not on you. Bolt cutters in the maintenance shed, red handles. You'll need them for the outer gate chain. Don't try to drive through. The gate is reinforced steel. Cut the chain, push it open, then go. The road leads north for 3 kilometers, then forks. Take the East Fork. That goes toward the Syrian border. West Fork goes deeper into hostile territory. There's a village called Al-Hasaka, about 40 kilometers northeast. Kurdish-controlled. If you make it there, you're safe. Dogs will be released the moment alarm sounds. 2 minutes after detection. You need to be in the vehicle and moving before then. Once you're outside the compound, floor it. Don't stop for anything. The truck can outrun the dogs if you get enough of a head start. Volkov, the commander, sleeps in the officer quarters, east wing. But if he's awake, he'll be the most dangerous. Spetsnaz training, combat veteran. Don't engage him unless you have no choice. If you do engage, aim center mass, double tap. Don't wait to see if he's down. He's fast and he's lethal. Sarah absorbed it all, building a mental map. What about you? What about me? Your part in this, what do you do? Long silence, then, I'm the distraction. When the chaos starts, I'll be making noise, drawing attention, giving you the seconds you need to move. That's a suicide mission. It's an acceptable trade. His voice was calm, resolved. 1 sick old man for 5 potential survivors. The math works. Reeves, Captain, the command voice again. I'm giving you an order. When the moment comes, you move. You don't look back. You don't try to help me. You complete the mission. Understood? Sarah's throat tightened. Understood. Good. Pause. There's one more thing. When you get out, when you reach friendly forces, tell them about this place. Make sure Washington knows. Make sure the world knows what's happening here. These contractors, these ex-Intel officers, they're building a network. This facility is just one node. There are others. We need to burn it all down. I will. I know you will, Captain. That's why I picked you. Reeves coughed, the worst one yet. It went on for nearly a minute. When he spoke again, his voice was weaker. Get some sleep. Tomorrow is game day. Tomorrow, Sarah echoed. She didn't sleep. Midnight, 27 hours until execution. Sarah lay in the dark and ran through the sequence again. Cell guard, keys, release Kareem, guard station, weapons, vehicle, bolt cutters, gate, East Fork, Al-Hasaka, 40 kilometers, Kurdish territory, safety, so many points of failure. The door opened without warning. 2 guards, flashlight in her face. Up, now. They marched her to the interrogation room. Gray Eyes was waiting, but this time he wasn't alone. A woman sat in the corner, late 30s, blonde, clinical expression. Doctor, maybe, or psychologist. Captain Vance, Gray Eyes said, this is Dr. Petrov. She's going to ask you some questions. The woman opened a laptop. Captain, I'd like to discuss your mental state. How are you sleeping? Sarah blinked against the sudden shift. What? Sleep patterns. Are you experiencing insomnia, nightmares, intrusive thoughts? I don't. It's a simple question. Dr. Petrov's voice was professionally neutral. Prolonged isolation causes specific psychological symptoms. I'm here to assess whether you're experiencing them. Gray Eyes leaned back, watching. This was a new tactic. Psychological evaluation as prelude to what? Enhanced interrogation? Chemical intervention? I sleep fine, Sarah lied. Dr. Petrov made a note. What about auditory hallucinations? Hearing voices, conversations with people who aren't there? A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Were they listening through the walls? Had they heard her talking to Reeves? No voices. You're certain? Because isolation often produces, I said no. Dr. Petrov made another note. Hostility, defensive affect, classic signs of stress response. She looked at Gray Eyes. I'd recommend pharmacological intervention. Benzodiazepines, moderate dose. It will reduce anxiety, improve cooperation. No drugs, Sarah said sharply. It's not a request, Captain. Gray Eyes stood. You'll receive the first dose tomorrow morning. Dr. Petrov assures me it will make our conversations more productive. They wanted her sedated, compliant, chemically softened before the real interrogation began. And tomorrow, transfer day, she needed to be sharp, clear-headed, ready to fight. You can't force medication without consent, she said, knowing it was futile. Gray Eyes smiled. Captain, you're not in a hospital. You're in a black site run by people who don't answer to the Geneva Convention or any other oversight body. He nodded to the guards. Take her back. In the cell, Sarah immediately pressed her face to the wall. Reeves, they're going to drug me. Tomorrow morning. Silence. Then a wet cough. Refuse the food. Refuse everything. They'll force it. Then you need to purge it. Right after. Make yourself vomit before it gets into your system. Pause. It's going to be ugly, but it's the only way. This changes the timeline. No, Reeves' voice was firm. We can't move early. The transfer is the key. We adapt. You purge the drugs. You stay sharp. We execute as planned. And if I can't purge fast enough, then Kareem leads. But you will purge it, Captain. I have faith in you. He coughed again. Try to rest, few hours until dawn. Rest was impossible. Sarah counted drips from the sink. 1,000 drops. 3,000 seconds. 50 minutes. Repeated it. Time became elastic, meaningless. At 6:30, breakfast came. The broth looked the same, but Sarah knew better. She drank half, just enough to be believable. Then, the moment the guard left, she triggered her gag reflex. Years of medical training taught her exactly how. She vomited into the toilet, flushed, drank water from the sink, repeated. Through the wall. Good. Again. Purge everything. She did it 3 more times. By the end, her throat was raw, stomach muscles cramping, but her mind was clear. No fog, no chemical softness. Status? Reeves asked. Clear. Outstanding. Pause. 13 hours, Captain. 13 hours and we're either free or dead. I know which one I'm betting on. 1,400 hours. Recreation period. But when Sarah's door opened, the guard shook his head. No recreation today. Lockdown. Transfer protocol. The door slammed shut. Through the wall, she heard similar exchanges. All prisoners confined to cells. The facility was going into security mode for the transfer. This was actually good news. It meant the transfer was confirmed for tonight. But it also meant no final coordination with Kareem or the others. They'd have to execute based on the plan Reeves had laid out, with no ability to adapt. At 1600, Sarah heard vehicles, heavy engines, the transfer escort arriving early. She pressed her ear to the wall, trying to gauge numbers. 2 vehicles, maybe 3, multiple personnel. This wasn't just a simple prisoner transfer. They were bringing serious security. Reeves, you hearing this? Yeah. His voice was thread thin. More than expected. That's actually good. How is that good? More people means more chaos, more chances for confusion. We use it. He coughed. Remember, 0245. During shift change, the transfer itself happens at 0300. We need to move before they're fully set up. Understood. Captain. Long pause. Whatever happens tonight, it's been an honor. Sarah's throat tightened. Honor's mine, Colonel. The afternoon dragged. Sarah exercised in her cell. Push-ups, squats, planks. Keeping blood flowing, muscles ready. At 1800, dinner came. She ate mechanically, forcing calories down despite her churning stomach. At 2000, the lights dimmed to twilight mode. Sarah lay on her bunk, eyes open, counting minutes. At 2200, she heard boots in the corridor, multiple guards, radios crackling, the transfer team doing preliminary sweeps. At 2230, a new sound, dogs barking. They were preparing the full security response. If the escape went wrong, those dogs would be released immediately. At 2300, Sarah sat up. 1 hour, 45 minutes. She began the final mental rehearsal. Cell guard, keys, Kareem, guard station, weapons, vehicle, gate, East Fork, 40 kilometers. She could do this. She would do this. At 2330, she heard Reeves coughing. Long, terrible, wet sounds. It went on for 3 minutes. When it stopped, she heard ragged breathing. Reeves? No answer. Reeves? Here. Barely a whisper. Still here. You good? Good enough. Pause. 75 minutes, Captain. Get ready. Sarah stood, tested her balance. Her hands were steady. Her mind was clear. All the fear, all the doubt, compressed down into a single point of focus. She was a weapon, and tonight she would prove it. 2,400 hours. Midnight. Through the wall, Reeves' breathing had taken on a new quality. Shallow, rapid, with a gurgling undertone that Sarah's medical training identified immediately. Pulmonary edema. Fluid filling the lungs. He was drowning from the inside. Reeves, you're breathing. I know. His voice was surprisingly calm. Lungs collapsing. Been feeling it all day. You need medical attention. Now. What I need is to get you out of here. A wet cough. 45 minutes, Captain. Then we execute. You're in no condition. I'm in exactly the condition I need to be in. His voice strengthened, defiant against his failing body. Dying man makes the perfect distraction. They won't see me as a threat. That's my advantage. Sarah pressed her forehead against the concrete, fighting the urge to argue. He was right. Tactically, strategically, he was right. But it felt like abandoning him. I'm going to get you out, she said. No, you're going to get yourself out. That's an order, Captain. Pause. But I appreciate the sentiment. At 0030, new sounds. Vehicle engines starting in the courtyard, doors slamming, radio chatter. The transfer team was beginning setup. At 100, Sarah heard cell doors opening in Block B. The prisoners being transferred were being prepped. Male voices speaking Russian and Arabic. Orders being given. Chains rattling. At 1:30, a change in the guard rotation. She heard boots moving through the corridor, old shift signing out. Dimitri's voice, the young guard, acknowledging his post assignment. He was on duty, just as Reeves predicted. At 0200, the facility settled into the shift change rhythm. 12 minutes of reduced alertness, 12 minutes when protocols were in flux. At 0215, Reeves spoke again. 30 minutes, check your gear. Sarah looked down at herself. Gray fatigues, rubber sandals, no gear to check. She was going into combat with nothing but her hands and her training. Reeves, I want you to know, don't. His voice cut her off. Don't say goodbye. We're not done yet. Pause. But for what it's worth, if I had to choose one person to put my faith in, it would be you. You're everything a Marine should be. Tough, smart, and too stubborn to quit. Sarah felt tears threatening. She forced them back. Thank you, Colonel. Thank me by making it out alive. At 0230, the facility-wide intercom crackled. Transfer team, stand by. Vehicle ready for prisoner loading. Escort team, positions. Through the wall. This is it. 15 minutes. Remember the sequence. Don't rush. Don't freeze. Just execute. I will. And Captain, when you get to Al-Hasaka, tell them about the network. Tell them this facility needs to be hit hard and fast. Airstrike, Marines, full raid. Don't let them half-ass it. I won't. One more thing. His breathing was labored now. If you make it and I don't, tell my daughter I'm sorry. Tell her I thought about her every day. Tell her the last thing I did mattered. Sarah's throat closed. I'll tell her. At 0240, she heard footsteps approaching her cell block. Single guard, routine check before the transfer. This was it. The countdown had begun. At 0243, the footsteps passed her cell, continued down the corridor. She heard Dimitri's voice. Block C, all secure. At 0244, silence. The moment stretched, pregnant with potential. At 0245, exactly on schedule, chaos erupted. Reeves began screaming. Not words, just raw, agonized sound. Loud enough to carry through the walls, through the doors, through the entire cell block. Footsteps running. Dimitri's voice. Medical emergency. Cell 4. Need assistance. Keys rattling. Reeves's cell door opening. Then a crash. A grunt. Reeves's voice suddenly strong. Now! Now! Sarah heard scuffling. Dimitri shouting. Then Kareem's voice, sharp and urgent. Cell 3! Get the keys to Cell 3! Her door flew open. Kareem stood there, Dimitri's keys in one hand, the guard's radio in the other. Behind him, Dimitri lay on the floor, unconscious or dead. Sarah couldn't tell which. Move, Captain. We have maybe 3 minutes before backup arrives. Sarah ran. Out of the cell, into the corridor. 3 other prisoners were already out, including one she recognized from recreation. Older man, Eastern European, moving with military precision. Reeves was on the floor of his cell, blood on his lips, but his eyes were fierce and alert. Go, he rasped. I'll hold the corridor. Buy you time. Reeves, go! He grabbed Dimitri's rifle, chambered around. That's an order, Captain. Kareem pulled Sarah back. He's right. We have to move. Now. They ran down the corridor. Behind them, Sarah heard Reeves shouting, rifle fire, alarms beginning to wail. The facility was waking up. The clock was running. The guard station window was exactly where Reeves said it would be. North wall, cracked open 3 inches. Sarah reached it first, boosted herself up while Kareem covered her. Inside, one guard, spinning toward the alarm panel. Sarah dropped through the window. The guard reached for his sidearm. She was faster, grabbed his wrist, twisted, used his momentum to slam his head into the desk. He went down hard. Clear, she called. Kareem came through the window, followed by the other 3 prisoners. Sarah was already at the weapons locker. Keys in the desk drawer, right side, exactly as briefed. She unlocked the locker. 4 AK-74s, 2 Makarov pistols, ammunition cans. She grabbed 2 rifles, threw one to Kareem, started loading magazines. 30 seconds, Kareem warned, watching the door. The other prisoners armed themselves. Sarah grabbed the radio from the unconscious guard's belt, switched to listen mode. Voices crackled through. Prisoners escaped from Block C. Reeves has a rifle, pinned down in corridor. Transfer team, delay loading, we have a situation. Vehicle is still in the courtyard, Sarah said. Windows closing, we move now. They burst out of the guard station into chaos. The courtyard was lit by floodlights, the transfer vehicle idling near the center. 2 guards stood by the rear doors, rifles ready. They saw Sarah's team and opened fire. Sarah dropped to one knee, returned fire. Double tap, center mass, just like training. The first guard went down. Kareem took the second. Clean, professional. Vehicle! Sarah ran. Behind them, more gunfire. The facility was fully alert now. They had maybe 90 seconds before overwhelming force converged on the courtyard. Sarah reached the vehicle, a Gaz-66, old Soviet military truck. She jumped into the driver's seat, keys in the ignition. Thank God. She turned them. The engine coughed. Died. Come on, come on. She tried again. The engine caught, roared to life. Kareem and the others piled into the back. Go! Sarah stomped the accelerator. The truck lurched forward, tires screeching on concrete. Ahead, the inner gate was open. The transfer team had left it open for the loading process. One break in their favor. But the outer gate was closed, chain and padlock, exactly as Reeves described. Bolt cutters, Sarah shouted. Maintenance shed, Kareem pointed. Sarah yanked the wheel left, drove straight at the shed. Crashed through the door. Wood and metal exploded. Inside, tools scattered. She saw them. Red handles, 3 feet long. One of the prisoners jumped out, grabbed the cutters, scrambled back in. Got them! Gunfire peppered the truck. Sarah felt impacts against the chassis. The rear window shattered. She kept driving, straight at the outer gate. Behind them, searchlights swept the courtyard. Dogs barking, men shouting. The facility's full defensive response deploying. The prisoner with the bolt cutters jumped out before Sarah could break. He ran to the gate, attacked the chain. 1 cut, 2 cuts. The chain fell away. Get in, Sarah screamed. He pushed the gate open, ran back. Kareem grabbed his hand, hauled him into the moving truck as Sarah accelerated through the gap. They were outside the compound. Gunfire chased them. Rounds sparked off the road. Sarah floored it, the old truck groaning but responding. 60 kilometers per hour, 70, 80. In the rearview mirror, she saw vehicles exiting the compound. Pursuit. And then, howling through the night, dogs. They released the shepherds, Kareem shouted from the back. Sarah pushed the truck harder. 90 kilometers per hour on a dirt road, suspension screaming. The dogs were fast, but not this fast. The gap widened. 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers. The road forked ahead. east towards Syria, west into hostile territory. Sarah took the east fork without hesitation. Behind them, the pursuit vehicles were falling back. They couldn't match the truck's speed on the rough terrain. But the radio on Sarah's belt crackled. Air support requested. Drone surveillance inbound. Do not let them reach the border. They had minutes, maybe less. The truck screamed down the road, headlights carving tunnels through the darkness. Sarah's hands gripped the wheel so hard her knuckles went white. Behind them, pursuit vehicles were dots of light in the mirror. Ahead, nothing but desert and the promise of the Syrian border. Beside her, the radio crackled. Drone has visual. Target vehicle heading northeast on Route 7. Speed, 92 kilometers per hour. Distance to border, 37 kilometers. They were being tracked. Of course they were. Every second she drove, someone was watching from a screen thousands of miles away, calculating intercept vectors. "Kareem!" Sarah shouted. "How many made it?" From the back, "5, all 5. Better than she dared hope. But Reeves wasn't one of them. The image of him holding the corridor, buying them seconds with his dying body, burned in her mind. She forced it down. Grief later, survival now. The road deteriorated, from packed dirt to loose gravel to barely visible tracks. The truck bounced violently. One of the prisoners in the back cried out as his head hit the roof. 20 kilometers. The border was close, so close. Then she saw it. Roadblock ahead. 2 vehicles positioned to block the narrow pass between rock formations. Headlights blazing. "Contact front!" Sarah slammed the brakes. The truck slewed sideways, tires screaming. Gunfire erupted. Muzzle flashes strobing in the darkness. Rounds punched through the windshield. Sarah ducked, felt glass rain down on her. "Out! Everyone, out!" Kareem was already moving, returning fire from the truck bed. Sarah grabbed her rifle, rolled out the driver's door, used the truck as cover. Assessed. 4 hostiles at the roadblock, good positions, professional spacing. Probably a rapid response team, pre-positioned for exactly this contingency. She aimed, fired, 3-round burst, 1 hostile down. Shifted, fired again. Suppressive fire, keeping them pinned. Beside her, one of the prisoners, the older man, grunted and went down. Hit. Kareem dragged him behind cover. "How bad?" Sarah shouted. "Chest, he's done." The man coughed blood, tried to speak. Sarah leaned close. "Go," he whispered. "Don't stop. Tell them we mattered." He died with his eyes open, staring at stars he'd been denied for years. No time to process it. Sarah returned to firing. The hostile positions were hardened. This wasn't a fight they could win through attrition. "Flanking maneuver," she ordered. "Kareem, take 2 and circle right. I'll provide covering fire." Kareem nodded, grabbed 2 prisoners, disappeared into the rocks. Sarah switched her rifle to full auto, burned through a magazine in controlled bursts, forcing the hostiles to stay down. Reloaded, burned through another. Then from the right, gunfire. Kareem's attack. The hostiles pivoted, split their attention. Sarah ran. Straight at them, firing as she moved. Combat rush, pure adrenaline. One hostile turned toward her. She shot him before he could aim. Another rose from cover. Kareem got him. The last hostile threw down his weapon, raised his hands. Sarah didn't slow. Hit him with the rifle butt as she passed, dropped him unconscious. No time for prisoners. "Truck shot to hell," Kareem reported, examining the bullet-riddled vehicle. "We're walking from here." "How far to the border?" "Maybe 15 kilometers, but on foot, in darkness, through hostile territory." He didn't finish. Sarah looked at the surviving prisoners. 4 now, including herself. Exhausted, wounded, but free. "We move fast. Stay low. If you can't keep up, you get left behind. Clear?" They nodded, no arguments. They understood the math. They ran into the darkness, leaving the burning truck and the dead behind. The terrain was vicious, loose scree, hidden ravines, patches of thorn brush that tore at their clothes. Sarah led, setting a pace just below an outright run. Behind her, the other three followed. One was limping badly, a twisted ankle from the firefight. They'd slow down soon. Physics demanded it, but for now, adrenaline carried them. The radio on Sarah's belt crackled. Ground team neutralized. Deploy secondary response. I want that vehicle found and all personnel terminated. Authorization, Volkov. So the commander was taking personal command. That meant serious resources. Helicopters, maybe. Definitely more ground teams. Sarah turned off the radio. It was only helping them track her. After 40 minutes, the limping prisoner, young, maybe 25, spoke Arabic, collapsed. Karim checked him. Ankles broken. He can't continue. The young man looked up at Sarah, eyes pleading. Leave me. You go. Every second they stopped was a second closer to recapture. But leaving him felt like murder. Can you hide? Sarah asked. Find cover, stay silent until morning, then move toward the border at your own pace? He nodded. I try. They left him in a crevice between rocks, covered with a tarp from their stolen gear. It was the best they could do. Sarah didn't look back. 3 left. They ran on. The sky began to lighten. False dawn, that gray period before sunrise. Visibility improved, which was both blessing and curse. They could see the terrain better, but they could also be seen. Sarah checked her mental map. 15 kilometers from the roadblock. They'd covered maybe 8. 7 to go. Karim touched her arm, pointed. There, in the distance, barely visible, a cluster of lights, a village, and beyond it the telltale outline of a border checkpoint, Syrian flags flying. Al-Hasaka, Sarah breathed. Reeves had been right. It was exactly where he said it would be. 6 kilometers, they could make it. They pushed harder, ignoring burning lungs and screaming muscles. The sun broke the horizon, full daylight now, and with daylight, the sound of rotors. Sarah looked back, a helicopter, low and fast, following their trail. Run, she screamed. They ran, all pretense of stealth abandoned. Pure flight now. The helicopter gained, its shadow racing across the ground ahead of them. The village was close, 4 kilometers. 3. The helicopter swung wide, positioning for a strafing run. Sarah saw a deep wadi, a dry riverbed, cutting across their path. Down! They tumbled into it as the helicopter opened fire. Rounds chewed up the ground where they'd been standing. Dust and rock exploded. Move! Follow the wadi! It curved northeast toward the village. They ran along it, using the high banks as cover. The helicopter orbited, trying to get an angle, but the wadi was deep enough. For now, 2 kilometers, the village was in clear sight. Sarah could see people moving, morning routine starting. The wadi opened up, became shallower. They'd have to leave its cover soon. On my signal, we sprint, Sarah said. Full speed. Don't stop for anything. Karim and the third prisoner, a man who'd barely spoken the entire escape, nodded. Sarah counted down. 3, 2, 1, go! They burst from the wadi, running across open ground. The helicopter saw them immediately, swung in for the kill. But they were close now. So close. Sarah saw people in the village pointing, shouting. Someone raised a rifle, but aimed at the helicopter, not at them. The helicopter banked away, unwilling to violate Syrian airspace with witnesses watching. They reached the village outskirts. Hands grabbed them, villagers pulling them to cover. Kurdish voices, excited and urgent. Someone pressed water into Sarah's hands. Someone else covered them with blankets. Through the chaos, Sarah heard Arabic and Kurdish mixed with broken English. You safe now? Americans? You Americans? Yes, Sarah gasped. We need to contact coalition forces, immediately. An older man, clearly the village leader, pushed through the crowd. We have radio. SAT phone. We call. He studied her face. You escaped from Black Site? Sarah nodded. The man's expression darkened. Many disappear there. Many never come back. He touched her shoulder. You are very brave. Come, we keep you safe until your people come. As they were led into the village, Sarah looked back at the desert they'd crossed. Somewhere out there, Reeves was dead, or dying, along with the young prisoner they'd left behind, and the older man who'd taken a chest shot at the roadblock. 3 dead so far, but 3 alive, and she had her mission: tell Washington everything. The man who'd barely spoken throughout the escape touched her arm. The colonel, Reeves, did he? He held the corridor, Sarah said quietly, gave us the time we needed. He died fighting. The man nodded, jaw tight. He was good man, best I knew. They were led to a building, half house, half fortified position. The village leader made the SAT phone call while Sarah drank water and tried to process what had just happened. 40 minutes later, she heard the sound of rotors again, but this time, friendlier ones. Black Hawks, flying low, coalition markings clear. The rescue had arrived. The Black Hawk touched down in a storm of dust and rotor wash. Sarah shielded her eyes as 2 operators jumped out, bearded, wearing civilian clothes over tactical gear. CIA, probably, or Special Activities Division. They moved with the easy confidence of men who'd done this 1,000 times. Captain Vance, the first one shouted over the rotors. That's me. Mike Patterson, Ground Branch, we're your ride home. He glanced at Kareem and the other prisoner. These 2 coming with? They earned it. Roger that. Let's move. They ran to the helicopter. Sarah climbed aboard, her legs shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. Patterson handed her a headset, pointed to the jump seat. The moment they were buckled, the pilot pulled pitch, and they lifted off. Through the headset, Captain, we're RTB to Al-Tanf, Coalition Base, 40 minutes flight time. You'll be debriefed there, then medically evaluated. After that, transport to Ramstein for full debrief. Sarah nodded, too exhausted to speak. Below, the desert scrolled past. Somewhere down there, the Black Site still operated. Volkov still commanded. And Reeves' body lay in a corridor he defended with his last breaths. Patterson seemed to read her mind. Captain, I need you to know, you escaping is a big deal. We've been trying to locate that facility for 2 years. Now we have coordinates, layout, personnel. This changes everything. How soon can you hit it? That's above my pay grade. But if I were guessing, 72 hours, maybe less. He pulled out a tablet. I know you're exhausted, but I need to start the preliminary debrief. Time-sensitive intelligence, you understand? Sarah understood. The longer they waited, the more chance Volkov had to sanitize the site, move prisoners, destroy evidence. What do you need? Start with the basics. How many guards? 12 day shift, 8 night, plus the commander Volkov, ex-Spetsnaz. Patterson typed rapidly. Prisoners? 6 when I left, down to 3 after the escape, but there might be others in different cell blocks I never saw. Weapons? Defenses? Sarah ran through everything she'd observed. The guard stations, the camera system, the vehicle depot, the dogs, the outer fence. Patterson absorbed it all, occasionally asking clarifying questions. This is gold, Captain, pure gold. He looked up from the tablet. One more question. The facility's operators, you said they were contractors? Ex-agency, ex-JSOC, rogue intel officers selling access to the highest bidder. Sarah's jaw tightened. They were hunting for CIA sources, using prisoners to map our human networks. Patterson's expression darkened. Jesus Christ, how much did they get? I don't know. I didn't talk, but others. She thought of the men who'd disappeared, the ones transferred to Chechnya. Others might have broken. We'll need a full list of every operation you supported, every source network you interfaced with. Damage assessment is going to be critical. I'll provide everything I can remember. The helicopter began its descent. Through the window, Sarah saw Al-Tamf, guard towers, sandbag positions, rows of prefab buildings flying American flags. Civilization, safety, home. The moment they touched down, a medical team surrounded them. A doctor, army, captain's bars, shone a light in Sarah's eyes. Pupils responsive. Any injuries? Bleeding? Pain? I'm fine. Check them first. She pointed to Kareem and the other prisoner. Captain, you just escaped from a black site after God knows what kind of treatment. I said I'm fine. Sarah's voice came out harder than she intended. They're worse off than me. Help them. The doctor studied her face, then nodded. All right, but you're next. No arguments. Sarah watched as they led Kareem and the other prisoner to the medical tent. Both were limping, covered in cuts and bruises, but alive. Against all odds, alive. Patterson touched her elbow. Captain, the debrief team is ready. I know you want to rest, but let's get it done. The debrief room was windowless, air-conditioned to meat locker temperature. 3 people waited, 2 men in civilian clothes, 1 woman in Army uniform with Colonel's eagles. Intelligence officers, all of them. The woman stood. Captain Vance, Colonel Jennifer Martinez, Defense Intelligence Agency. Please, sit. Sarah sat. Someone placed a bottle of water in front of her. She drank half of it in one pull. Captain, I know you've had an ordeal, Martinez began, but time is critical. We need to understand exactly what happened at that facility, what they were after, and what damage may have been done to our intelligence networks. Understood, ma'am. Let's start with your capture. Walk me through it. Sarah recounted the convoy ambush, the precision of the attack, the speed with which they'd identified her real role despite her cover as a combat medic. One of the civilian analysts, late 40s, gray hair, sharp eyes, interrupted. They knew you were JTAC qualified before interrogation began? Yes. The interrogator, I called him Gray Eyes, he knew on day 1, had my full service record, classified portions included. The analyst exchanged glances with Martinez. That's a significant security breach, very significant. Martinez leaned forward. Captain, I need you to be very precise about this next part. What exactly did they ask about? Initially, they wanted targeting protocols, airstrike procedures, but that was cover. Sarah met the colonel's eyes. What they really wanted was my human sources, the network of informants who provided ground intelligence for the strikes I called in. The room went very quiet. They had analytical tools, Sarah continued, pattern recognition software. They were mapping my operations, cross-referencing targets with subsequent intelligence reports, looking for common threads that would identify sources. Did you provide any names? Martinez asked, her voice carefully neutral. No, ma'am, not one. Threats? Coercion? Psychological warfare. They showed me photos of dead sources, claimed they had others under surveillance, said they'd kill families if I didn't cooperate. Sarah's hands clenched. I maintained silence throughout. Good, Martinez nodded. But here's the problem, Captain. You weren't the only prisoner, and some of them were there much longer than you. 4 years in one case. Colonel Reeves, Marine Force Recon. We know. We've had him listed as KIA for 3 years. Assumed he died during capture. Martinez pulled out a file. Did he talk? Did he provide intelligence to his captors? Sarah felt anger flash hot in her chest. Colonel Reeves held that corridor so we could escape. He died buying us time. He was a hero, ma'am. Don't dishonor his memory by suggesting. I'm not dishonoring anyone, Captain. I'm conducting damage assessment. That requires knowing who said what. Martinez's voice remained level. Did Reeves indicate he'd given his captors any information? Sarah forced herself to think past emotion. He said he was useful because he spoke 4 languages. They used him as a translator during interrogations, but he told me he never gave them what they really wanted, his recon protocols. What about the others, the prisoners who were transferred to Chechnya? I don't know. Reeves said 2 of his men broke after 6 months, but I don't know what they revealed. The civilian analyst spoke again. Captain, I need you to list every operation you supported, every strike you called in, every source network you interfaced with. We need to cross-reference against known compromises. For the next 2 hours, Sarah recited missions, dates, locations, targets, outcomes. The analyst typed furiously, building a database of potential exposure. When they finally finished, Sarah's voice was hoarse and her head pounded. Martinez stood. Thank you, Captain. This has been extremely valuable. You'll be transported to Ramstein tomorrow for medical evaluation and full psychological assessment. After that, stateside and reunion with your family. Ma'am, one question. Sarah stood as well. The facility, when do we hit it? That's being discussed at very high levels. State Department is involved, DOD, CIA. These facilities exist in a legal gray area. With respect, ma'am, there's no gray area. They're torturing American soldiers. They're compromising our intelligence networks. They need to be eliminated. Martinez's expression softened slightly. I agree, Captain. And I'll make sure your testimony is included in the briefing that goes to SECDEF. But these decisions take time. Time that Volkov is using to sanitize evidence and move prisoners. I understand your frustration. Do you? Sarah heard her voice rising, couldn't stop it. Because Colonel Reeves is dead. A man named Martinez died buying us seconds. Another prisoner has a broken ankle hiding in the desert, and there are 3 more still in that facility right now, waiting for us to save them. The room was silent. Captain, Martinez said quietly, stand down. That's an order. Sarah stood down, but the rage stayed. The medical tent smelled of antiseptic and canvas. Sarah lay on a cot while the doctor sutured a cut on her arm she hadn't even realized she had. Karim occupied the cot beside her, his twisted ankle wrapped and elevated. They giving you trouble about the escape? He asked in accented English. No trouble, just questions. You? Same. Many questions. He smiled tiredly. They want to know how 3 prisoners and 1 American captain defeated 12 guards and escaped a black site. I tell them, we had good leader. We had a good plan. Reeves' plan. Plans are nothing without execution. Karim closed his eyes. What happens to me now? Sarah hadn't thought about it. Karim was Iraqi, a former interpreter. He'd been captured years ago, probably listed as dead or disappeared. The bureaucratic nightmare of his situation was just beginning. They'll debrief you, verify your identity, then probably offer you asylum, maybe a visa. And if I don't want to go to America, if I want to go home, then you go home. Sarah looked at him. You're free now. That means choices. Free, Karim tested the word. I was prisoner for so long, I forgot what that feels like. The doctor finished the sutures, applied a bandage. Captain, you're good to go. Get some rest. Transport to Ramstein leaves at 0600. Sarah thanked him, stood. Her body felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. But sleep seemed impossible. Her mind was still running, still in mission mode. She walked outside into the desert night. The base was quiet, most personnel either on duty or asleep. Guard towers lit by floodlights. Distant sound of generators humming. This was what they'd been fighting for, she realized. Not just escape, but return to this. Structure, safety, purpose. A world where rules still mattered. But she couldn't shake the image of Reeves holding that corridor, or the young prisoner they'd left behind, or the 3 still trapped in the facility. Patterson found her standing by the perimeter fence, staring into the darkness. Can't sleep? Not yet. Yeah, I've been there. He pulled out a cigarette, offered her one. She shook her head. He lit his own. For what it's worth, Captain, what you did was remarkable. 5 prisoners escaping a hardened facility with 0 outside support? That's legendary. 3 escaped, 2 died. 3 more than would have escaped if you'd stayed put and waited for rescue that might never come. Sarah knew he was right. Intellectually, she knew. But it didn't stop the guilt. "They're going to hit the facility, aren't they?" she asked. Patterson took a long drag. "Officially, I can't comment on future operations." "And unofficially?" He exhaled smoke into the night. "Unofficially, there's a JSOC team staging right now. Probably wheels up within 48 hours. But you didn't hear that from me." Sarah felt something loosen in her chest. "Good. They'll want you on comms during the op. Your intel on layout, guard positions, prisoner locations, that's going to be critical. I'll provide whatever they need." They stood in silence for a while. Then Patterson spoke again, quieter. "The Colonel, Reeves, you knew him well?" 4 days. But in that situation, 4 days is a lifetime." Sarah turned to look at Patterson. "He was everything you'd want in a Marine. Tough, smart, loyal to the end." "He have family stateside?" "A daughter. He asked me to tell her. Tell her he thought about her every day. Tell her the last thing he did mattered." Patterson nodded slowly. "I'll make sure that message gets delivered through proper channels. Marines take care of their own." "Thank you." More silence. Then, "Captain, you should try to get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be another long day." "Yeah." But Sarah didn't move. She stood there watching the darkness, thinking about all the people still trapped in it. 46 hours later, Sarah sat in a command center at Al-Tanf, surrounded by screens and radio equipment. The JSOC operation was underway. On the main screen, drone feed from 15,000 feet. Infrared showed the black site compound as a cluster of white heat signatures against cool desert black. Sarah counted. 14 guards visible on external patrol, more inside the buildings. The raid commander, a Navy SEAL captain named Briggs, stood beside her, headset on, coordinating multiple elements. "Assault Team 1, you are go for breach. Overwatch, confirm clear?" "Overwatch clear, no movement on the north wall." On screen, Sarah watched as 2 helicopters dropped fast and low, flaring at the last second to hover just above the compound walls. Ropes deployed, operators fast roped down. "Breach, breach, breach," Briggs called. Explosions bloomed white on the infrared, thermite charges on the doors. The assault teams poured through. Sarah's radio crackled. She was patched into the operation net. She heard suppressed gunfire, shouted commands, the controlled chaos of a raid in progress. "Block C located," a voice reported. 3 prisoners, all responsive, preparing for extract. "Copy, medical team standing by." More gunfire, heavier now. Someone was fighting back. "Contact, East Wing, multiple hostiles, heavily armed." "Overwatch engaging." On the drone feed, Sarah saw the infrared flash of sniper fire from the helicopters, white signatures dropping. "Target of interest located," another voice, calmer, professional. Male, approximately 55 years old, engaging from a fortified position. Spetsnaz CQB tactics. "This is your commander." Volkov. They'd found him. "Rules of engagement?" Briggs asked. Static. Then, "He's not surrendering. Taking fire. Returning. Contact down. Target neutralized." Just like that, the man who'd run the facility, who'd tortured prisoners for years, was dead. Sarah felt nothing. No satisfaction, no relief, just emptiness. The raid continued for another 12 minutes. When it was over, the count was 3 prisoners recovered alive, 14 guards KIA, Volkov KIA, significant intelligence material seized, 0 friendly casualties, textbook operation. Briggs pulled off his headset, turned to Sarah. "Your intelligence was dead on, Captain. Every detail. We couldn't have done this without you." "The prisoners, are they?" "Being loaded onto helicopters now. They'll be here within the hour." Sarah nodded, throat tight. 3 more saved. Not everyone, but 3. There's something else, Briggs said. We found remains in the compound, multiple burial sites. Looks like 30, maybe 40 bodies. Some old, some recent. The ones who'd been transferred. The ones who'd disappeared. They'd never left the compound at all. We'll need your help identifying them, Briggs continued. Anyone you remember, descriptions, details. I'll help. Sarah's voice was mechanical. Whatever you need. When the rescued prisoners arrived, Sarah was there to meet them. 3 men, all in bad shape. Malnourished, injured, traumatized, but alive. One of them, older, maybe 60, looked at Sarah with recognition. You came back. We came back. They said no one would. They said we were forgotten. Tears streaked his hollow face. But you came back. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood on the tarmac at Andrews Air Force Base, watching the honor guard approach with a flag-draped coffin. Colonel James Reeves had come home. The JSOC team had recovered his body from the facility corridor. He died holding that position, rifle empty, surrounded by spent brass. He'd taken 3 guards with him before the end. Sarah stood at attention as the coffin was loaded into the hearse. Beside her, a woman in her 30s, Reeves's daughter Michelle, wept quietly. After the ceremony, Michelle approached Sarah. Captain Vance, I'm Michelle Reeves. I wanted to thank you for bringing my father home, for telling me what happened. Sarah had met with her 2 days ago, delivered the message Reeves had asked her to pass on. It had been one of the hardest conversations of her life. Your father was a hero, ma'am. He saved my life, saved all of us. I know, Michelle wiped her eyes. He was always the hero type, drove my mother crazy. He could never just be safe. He always had to be out there, helping people. She managed a small smile. I'm glad his last mission was a success. That matters. It does. Michelle pulled out an envelope. He wrote this years ago before his last deployment, just in case. The Army forwarded it to me after they confirmed. She held it out. There's a section addressed to whoever brought him home. He wanted you to have it. Sarah took the envelope with shaking hands. Thank you. After Michelle left, Sarah opened it. Inside, Reeves's handwriting, strong, clear, military precise. To whoever is reading this, if you're reading it, I'm gone. That's okay. I made peace with that possibility a long time ago. If I died in that place, in that cell, I want you to know I didn't break. I didn't give them what they wanted. And if I helped anyone else escape, if I bought someone time with my last breaths, then I died the way I lived, as a Marine. Tell my daughter I love her. Tell her I'm proud of the woman she became. Tell her the old man went out fighting, and that's exactly how he wanted it. Semper Fi, Colonel. James Reeves, USMC. Sarah folded the letter carefully, placed it back in the envelope. Around her, the base continued its daily rhythm. Planes taking off and landing, personnel going about their duties, the machinery of military life grinding forward. But she stood still, holding a dead man's last words, thinking about sacrifice and duty and the price of freedom. 6 months later, Sarah sat across from a congressional committee, under oath, recounting everything she'd experienced. The escape had sparked a major investigation into black sites, rogue contractors, and the systematic torture of American prisoners. Senator Williams, chair of the Armed Services Committee, leaned forward. Captain Vance, in your professional opinion, how many facilities like the one you escaped from currently exist? I can't give you a specific number, Senator, but based on conversations I had with other prisoners, references made by guards, intelligence we've gathered since, I'd estimate at least 5, possibly more. Murmurs through the committee room. And these facilities are operated by former U.S. intelligence officers? Yes, sir. Men who were trained by our government, given access to our most sensitive programs, then went private when they saw an opportunity for profit. Profiting from torture. Profiting from information extraction, Senator. Torture is just a tool. Williams sat back. This committee will be recommending immediate action to identify and eliminate these facilities. We'll also be looking at how to prevent former intelligence officers from selling their expertise to the highest bidder. After the hearing, Sarah was approached by a man in a suit. CIA, she'd learned to recognize the type. Captain Vance, I'm Robert Chen, Counterintelligence Division. Do you have a moment? They walked to a secure room. Chen closed the door. I wanted to give you an update on the damage assessment. The sources you were protecting, we've managed to extract most of them. 20 high-value assets relocated, given new identities. 4 we couldn't reach in time. But 12 out of 16 is a hell of a lot better than 0 out of 16. Sarah felt something ease in her chest. Thank you for telling me. You earned it. Your silence under interrogation saved lives, Captain. A lot of them. He paused. There's something else. The facility's records. We recovered their servers. Turns out they had detailed files on over 200 prisoners who passed through their system over 5 years. We're working to identify and locate families, give them closure. What about the burial site, the 40 bodies? DNA analysis is ongoing. So far, we've identified 23. Military personnel mostly, a few contractors, some local nationals who worked with coalition forces. His expression darkened. Every single one listed as KIA or MIA in official records. But they weren't killed in action. They were murdered after capture. Sarah closed her eyes. Their families deserve to know the truth. They'll get it. I promise you that. After Chen left, Sarah walked out of the Capitol building into bright summer sunshine. Washington was beautiful in June. Tourists everywhere, monuments gleaming white, the eternal optimism of American democracy on full display. She thought about Reeves, about Martinez, about the young prisoner with the broken ankle who'd been found 3 days after the escape, dehydrated but alive. About Kareem, who'd chosen asylum and was now working as a translator for the State Department. She thought about the 3 prisoners they'd rescued in the raid, all of whom were slowly rebuilding their lives. And she thought about the ones they hadn't saved, the 40 in unmarked graves, the 4 sources who couldn't be extracted in time, the price paid for every small victory. Her phone buzzed. Text from Patterson, the ground branch officer who'd extracted her. Heading back to Syria next week, hunting more black sites. Could use a consultant with first-hand experience. Interested? Sarah stared at the message for a long time. She'd been offered a medical discharge, full benefits, VA support, the whole package. She could walk away from all of this, go back to a normal life. But normal life felt impossible now. How do you go back to normal after you've seen what she'd seen? After you've lived what she'd lived? She typed her response. When do we leave? Because there were still black sites out there, still prisoners waiting for someone to remember them, still fights worth fighting. And Sarah Vance wasn't done fighting yet. 1 year after the escape, Sarah stood at Arlington National Cemetery looking at a white marble headstone. Colonel James Reeves, United States Marine Corps, 1969 to 2025, Semper Fidelis. She placed a small rock on top of the headstone, a Jewish tradition she'd learned from another veteran, a way of saying, I was here, I remembered. Michelle Reeves stood beside her, along with a dozen other Marines, men who'd served with Reeves over the years. He'd hate all this fuss, Michelle said softly. He always said he was just doing his job. That's what heroes always say, Sarah replied. They stood in silence for a while. Then Michelle asked, Did you find them? The other black sites? Sarah nodded. 3 more. Shut them all down. 47 prisoners recovered total. Good. Michelle's voice was fierce. Good. He'd be proud of that. I hope so. As they walked back through the cemetery, past rows of white markers stretching toward the horizon, Sarah's phone buzzed again. Another message from Patterson. New lead on a facility in Libya, high confidence, wheels up Friday if you're available. She was always available, because this was her mission now, not calling in airstrikes from a forward position, not patching up wounded soldiers. This, finding the forgotten, bringing them home, making sure the sacrifice meant something. Reeves had taught her that in those 4 days in hell. 4 days that felt like 4 years. 4 days that changed everything. She sent her reply. I'm in. Send me the brief. Then she looked back at Reeves' grave one more time. Semper Fi, Colonel, she whispered, and she walked forward into whatever came next, carrying the weight of all those who couldn't walk anymore, carrying their stories, carrying their sacrifice, making sure none of them were ever forgotten. The briefing room at Langley was small, windowless, and crowded with people who didn't officially exist. Sarah sat at the table among them, operators, analysts, spooks who'd spent careers in the shadows. The briefing officer, a woman named Director Sarah had come to respect over the past year, pulled up satellite imagery. This is Facility 7, remote location in the Sahara, southern Libya. We've confirmed the presence of at least 8 American citizens being held prisoner, unknown how many others. Sarah studied the layout, smaller than the facility she'd escaped from, but similar design, concrete walls, guard towers, isolated location. Intelligence suggests the facility is run by the same network that operated the Syrian site. They've adapted after our raids, increased security, moved to more remote locations, changed their operational protocols. Making them harder to find, Patterson said from across the table, and harder to hit, the director agreed, which is why we're going for a different approach this time. Not a raid, an infiltration. She looked directly at Sarah. Captain Vance, we need someone who can get captured, someone who knows how these facilities operate from the inside, someone who can survive long enough for us to track them, identify the location, and coordinate extraction. Sarah understood immediately. You want me to be bait. I want you to be a Trojan horse. We'll equip you with tracking technology they won't detect. You get captured, you survive, you provide intelligence from inside while we prepare the raid. How long are we talking? Days? Weeks? Could be months, Captain. These operations take time to set up properly. Months in a cell, months of interrogation, months of torture. Everything she'd experienced before, except this time walking into it voluntarily. Sarah thought about Reeves, about the 40 bodies in unmarked graves, about the 8 Americans still trapped in that facility right now, waiting for someone to remember them. What's the mission parameters? She asked. The director smiled, acknowledging Sarah's acceptance without needing to hear the words. Full briefing tomorrow at 0800. For now, just know that you won't be alone. We'll have assets in place, monitoring constantly. The moment we have everything we need, we hit the facility hard and fast. After the meeting, Patterson caught up with Sarah in the parking lot. You don't have to do this, he said. You've already done more than anyone could ask. Those 8 Americans didn't ask to be there either. True, but there's a difference between being captured and volunteering to be captured. Sarah looked at him. Is there? Because from where I'm standing, it's all the same mission. Get in, survive, bring people home. Patterson studied her for a long moment. You've changed, Captain. The woman I pulled out of that desert a year ago, she would have taken the medical discharge, gone home, tried to forget. I did try to forget. Sarah's voice was quiet. Turns out I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see that corridor. I hear Reeves buying us time. I remember the promises I made. She met his eyes. So yeah, I changed, because staying the same wasn't an option. Patterson nodded slowly. All right, then I'll be on the extraction team. When you're ready to come home, I'll be there. Good, Sarah managed a small smile. Try not to be late. She drove back to her apartment, a small place in Arlington, close enough to the Pentagon for convenience, far enough for occasional anonymity. Inside, she pulled out a box from the closet. Inside were letters, dozens of them. Letters from families of the prisoners she'd helped rescue. Letters from the prisoners themselves. Letters from Michelle Reeves. Letters from Kareem, updating her on his new life in America. Each one a reminder of why this mattered, why the cost was worth it. She added Patterson's message to the box, the one from a year ago, asking if she wanted to keep hunting black sites. Her response, "When do we leave?" That had been the beginning, and tomorrow would be another beginning, another mission, another chance to bring someone home. Sarah closed the box, put it back in the closet. Then she began preparing for what came next. Physical training, mental preparation, reviewing everything she'd learned about survival in captivity, because in 3 days she'd be captured again, deliberately, voluntarily, walking back into hell so that others could eventually walk out of it. It was insane. It was dangerous. It was probably going to break something inside her that could never be fixed. But it was also necessary. And Sarah Vance had learned one fundamental truth in that Syrian black site. Sometimes the only way out is through. Sometimes the only way to save others is to sacrifice yourself. Sometimes the mission demands everything, and you give it anyway, because that's what it means to serve. She looked at herself in the mirror, saw the scars, physical and psychological, saw the woman she'd become, forged in darkness, tempered by suffering. "Semper Fi, Colonel," she said to her reflection, to Reeves's ghost, to all the ghosts that followed her now. Then she turned away from the mirror and got back to work. Because the mission never ended, it just evolved. And Sarah Vance would keep evolving with it, keep fighting, keep bringing people home, until there was no one left to save. Or until it finally killed her. Either way, she'd made her peace with it.